Welcome back to Live with No Excuses, the live edition. That just feels cool to say. One of our episodes we did with Mike Laughlin, Canadian fireman, above the knee amputee, the only above the knee amputee that's a fireman in Canada, and had such a good time. I asked him to come on live. Mike, awesome to see you again. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be back, bud. I had a great time on that podcast. I've done a lot of podcasts, and that one just flowed so well, and we only got through like a quarter of the story.
Man, it means a lot that you said that because like I'm still new to this, and I'm really enjoying every episode we've had. Has just been one amazing person after the other, and I've really just enjoyed hearing y'all's stories, and I take something away from it every time. Like, I'm an amputee myself. I've been through trauma, but it doesn't matter. I'm still learning. I'm still trying to adapt and figure out life. And there's so much to learn. And having you and all the other, the guys, and we had one female so far. We're going to have more that have come on. I've learned so much from, and it means a lot that one, you said that you enjoyed it and that you were willing to come back on and let me poke and prod at you a little more.
Of course. Yeah, you can ask whatever you want. I'm an open book, as always.
Well, catch me up. What's been going on? Like, just, the farm and grass and everything.
Oh, yeah. We were just talking earlier before we got on here about mowing the lawn, and I just mowed the lawn, and that's your time to like throw in the earbuds, right? And listen to podcasts and just relax.
Yes.
So we both enjoy mowing the lawn, right? And you've got a lot more acreage than I do to mow.
And I felt like it was a great conversation we had because you just got a new zero turn
Yep.
Bobcat, which sounds like it's super fancy and nice. And then I got to tell you about mine. I've got a zero turn that is a joystick on one side, and it's perfect for me with one hand. And it's not even made for me. I had a neighbor tell me about his he had from the 80s, and I looked it up and bought a brand new one. And I need to get Country Clippers to sponsor this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, but like that just works for you. Obviously, you can't do the zero turn with the two handles like I have, so you had to find something that worked. And I never even thought like on a traditional mower, you have the blade engager and to drop the deck. Like you need two arms, right?
Yeah.
So you've got the perfect mower for you.
Yeah. Now my father-in-law has a really old, I'm going to go ahead and say this. My father-in-law, I love this man so much. Farmer, Canadian. He's like every other farmer. We're just talking about it. Keeps everything forever. We'll just keep it running. And he has a really old John Deere diesel zero turn with a steering wheel riding lawnmower. And it's really nice. I like it. I can drive it. But that zero turn, even with a steering wheel, you still don't get what you get on a regular zero turn. The tires spinning around in one spot.
Right.
And I love that.
Yeah, I'd like to see
grass.
I'd like to see a video of you driving that joystick lawnmower, by the way, one of these days.
You know what? I can make that happen. I love any excuse to cut grass.
And you mentioned you may help out an amputee along the way because they'll be like, oh, I didn't know they made those, right?
You know what? Yeah, we were talking about that before we went live about how these stories and the things we talk about are so good for other amputees to be like, hey, this will work. This will work for me.
Yep, absolutely.
Now, I got to ask, you mentioned, like, I love listening to my headphones, audiobooks, podcasts. What do you listen to? Like, give me an example. Tell me one of the podcasts you love listening to.
Well,
aside from Living with No Excuses.
Yeah, of course. I listen to all kinds of different things, but I was a hockey player at one time in my life. So I listen to Spit and Chicklets, which is a hockey. Yeah, it's called Spit and Chicklets. It's Canadian hockey players up here. And then Missing Curfew is another one, the hockey one that I listen to. And I missed a lot of curfews as a hockey player as well. And then I love listening to like Navy SEAL ones. So there's lots of those out there. But yeah, I'm all over the place with them. I have like 20 that I saved, and I just go through them all the time.
Well, I got to share this. The reason I asked that was for my own personal reason. I wanted to talk about something that I've recently I like educational books. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I always feel like I have to be learning. And then the other day I was like, you know what? I should listen to something different, just something for entertainment. And I came across a Stephen King book called The Long Walk. And I listened to it on Audible and I loved it so much. I'm in the process of listening to it for a second time.
Oh,
Like I
wow.
don't even like watching movies more than once. And
Yeah,
and
neither do I.
I love this audiobook, The Long Walk. It is
Wow.
so good. And then I found out the end of this year they're coming out with the movie The Long Walk. It came out in the 70s. The book did. And so they're doing the movie
Oh,
and I'm interested in seeing it because I'm so into the book that now I'll know more about the details of things. You know how books are, you get more information.
yeah.
And so I'm excited to watch this movie because I love the book so much.
And we talked earlier too. Like I don't, I'm not a big reader, right? Like I can read, I just don't choose to. So listening to books is the only option for me, right?
Yeah, because you can do other things while listening to it.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
love
Mow the lawn.
audiobooks when I'm driving, when I'm mowing the lawn, yeah, whatever it is. When I'm riding my motorcycle, I'll listen to an audiobook, and I love it. I love
Yeah, absolutely.
audiobooks.
I was just trying
All
to read
right,
some of the comments too, and that's
yeah.
why it's hard for me to do two things at once here. Okay, so but Keith Harden, awesome brother. Thanks for listening to the first one. And who else said that? William Griffin.
Griffin, yeah. Yeah, awesome. You know, you did. You have. I encourage people to go back and listen to Mike's story. We're going to cover. So there was, if you haven't listened to his podcast yet, there was a lot. I mean, Mike, when you came on, me and Chuck were both like, "Holy crap!" Like just layer after layer after layer, and you know, there was so much happening. We thought it'd be fun to go over one of those stories and the things you went through. And one of those stories was you wrecking your snowmobile.
Right. So that was my first accident.
Yeah.
That was in
How old
2007.
were you?
I was
Yeah. Okay.
26.
2007.
Yeah, 26 years old. And at that time, I thought I was invincible still, right?
Yeah.
Like I'd never broken a bone in my life. I was pretty rugged and played all the sports. You know, I broke a couple knuckles here and there playing hockey, but never broken a bone, right? So I literally thought I was invincible. And that's why I was doing 100 miles an hour across the lake at midnight in the dark in a snowstorm. So
Okay. You didn't tell me all that.
yeah, so I'm going across the lake and I'm trying to keep up with the guy in front of me because I knew I couldn't see 10 feet in front of me. And I knew if I lost the guy in front of me, I would be lost out in the middle of
You're
that
done
lake.
there.
And I could have drove around in circles until I ran out of gas and then froze to death. It was minus 20 and it was a blizzard. So I could see his tail light about 10 feet away. So I was speeding up, catching his tail light and being, okay, there he is. And then I would lose him, right? And so I'd speed up, and I'd catch his tail light and I'd find him again. And I did that about 5 times. And the sixth time, right, I'm speeding up and I can't find his tail light. I'm panicking and I can't find his tail light. So I'm going faster to the point where I was, flying across this lake and couldn't see literally 5 feet in front of me. And till I could see 5 feet in front of me and it was an island. And I remember the split second I just let go of the handlebars and I went, I'm dead.
Yeah.
And then I sat up and I went, oh my God, I'm alive. And I kind of look around, I'm in the middle of this island and I look down and my left leg was snapped right off at the femur and I could feel it snapped off. Like I knew it was grossly deformed and I'd hit the island so hard that I blew all the seams of my snowmobile suit and there was like fluff coming out of my snowmobile suit. And so I'm like, oh my God, right? Like I'm going to die out here. I just killed myself. I'm trying to like do kind of an inventory of what's wrong with me besides the femur. And so as I'm going through my check, I pull out my cell phone and there were the flip phones back then. And I flip it open and I dial 911, send, and the phone dies. So
Oh my God.
those old phones, right? They got cold. The battery would die very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I remember throwing the phone and being like, what am I going to do? And kind of panicking. I'm like, okay. And so every once in a while, there would be like a break in the snow and I could see there was a cottage on the island that I'd hit. And by the way, I'd hit this island and I threaded the needle up through all these trees. There was probably 50 trees in front of me,
Oh,
and I threaded the needle. If I had to hit any one of those trees at 100 miles an hour, I would have snapped right in half. Right? I'd be dead.
that'd have been it.
I got lucky and I threaded the needle and never hit a tree and landed in a snowbank, right? And so I saw this cottage, and every once in a while the break in the snow and I'd see the cottage, and I'm like, and as I was doing that inventory, I'd found I had a lighter on me, right? Always carry a lighter just in case. My dad's things he always told me, right? So my idea was, I'm a firefighter. I'm gonna crawl to the cottage. I'm gonna light the cottage on fire. The flames will be 100 feet in the air. The fire department will come, and they'll find me, and that's how I'm gonna survive this. So the next thing was getting to that cottage, right? And so I started crawling, and I remember crawling, dragging my leg as I was going. So I would crawl, and then I could feel it coming apart, and I drag my leg. That's how so I actually shattered 6 inches of my femur. It wasn't really attached anymore. And so I was crawling, and I laid down, and I tried to die. And I remember thinking to myself, just die and get it over with. Just die and get it over with. And then I started thinking to myself, I can't do this to my family. You know, my mom will be devastated. My dad, like, I can't do this. I can't go out like this. I'm going to keep fighting. And so I started crawling again. And I kept crawling for another maybe 5-10 minutes. And then I laid down a second time and tried to die again, because I was in so much pain. I was freezing, and I felt like I was never going to get to that cottage. And so I laid down the second time to try to die. And then it's funny what motivates you. I started thinking, you know, you're supposed to be this big, tough firefighter, this big, tough hockey player. You're going to go out like this. You're going to be a pussy and go out like this. There's no way. So fight. And it gave me the motivation to keep going again. And I started crawling again. And it's a good thing I did, because when I did, a couple minutes later, the guy that I had been following had got to the other side of the lake, realized I wasn't with them, and came looking for me. And I heard a snowmobile coming, and he turned off, and he started hollering back and forth, and to the point where he was over top of me, and he's like, "What do I do?" And I'm like, "Drag me on the back of your snowmobile and get me to shore. I need to get to a hospital." Right. And so he got me on that snowmobile, and I remember feeling every single bump on the way in. My femur just smashing together, and got to the other side. And he goes, "Don't worry, I phoned ahead. There's a car waiting to drive you to the hospital." And being a firefighter, right, I thought I was smarter than phoning an ambulance. I was like, I'll do this myself. Phone an ambulance, people. Okay. that was not a good idea. What's waiting for me on the other side is like, I've got a car waiting for you. Well, we get there. He's got this we're out in the middle of the country, right? And I grew up on a farm. There's this jacked up monster truck waiting for me. Floorboards are like 5.5 feet high, and they're trying to lift me into this thing. My legs pulling apart. I'm screaming, swinging, like going crazy. So I never got into that truck. They ended up giving up, and they're like, "Okay, hold on." He peels out and came back with a car. And I actually got picked up by my girlfriend at that time. They're like, "We only have a truck," right? So they had made a second call, got picked up by her, and she drove me into the hospital. And that was
okay. Let's back up for a second. I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
One, did the blizzard hit while y'all were out riding? Did you choose to go ride during? These are just things that are crossing my mind. One, what were you doing on the lake? Two, why were you out in the blizzard?
So I shouldn't have been on the lake in the first place. I had already gone to I was staying at a friend's that night, and we'd already been in, and I wanted to go for one more rip across the lake. It was
because it's nighttime. Yeah, it's nighttime.
It was nighttime, but it's great conditions, cold, and it was only snowing a little bit at the time. And snowmobiles run so good in the cold, and it was just there's fresh snow. It's like, I want to go for one more rip, right?
Yeah.
And one more rip, but this is what did it. And so as we were going, it started snowing harder and harder to the point where it was like, it was snowing sideways. And the guy that I was with lived out there and I didn't live in that area. He knew the lake like the back of his hand. So he knew where he's going by he'd get to a certain point and he'd be like, okay, here I am. Right. Where I had no idea. I was lost.
No, yeah. You were just counting on his taillights.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he wasn't thinking.
How big is this lake?
It's 22 miles long. It's a huge lake.
Oh, okay. A huge lake. Okay.
So if you get lost out there, you're lost.
Oh my God. Yeah. Our lakes here in Alabama are rivers that have been turned into lakes.
Okay.
So you can literally, certain spots of our lakes, you could, a good throw may get a rock across. You can't get lost on theirs, on
No,
ours.
you can find shore. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, let's jump back forward. Your girlfriend at the time picks you up. Y'all go to the hospital. Like, which leg is this?
This is my left leg,
And you later lost your,
right leg. Yeah, I couldn't.
okay.
I couldn't have wrecked the leg that was already wrecked. Right. I had to wreck the good
Yeah.
one.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, because now I want to know what happened when you get to the hospital. Did they think you were going to lose it? Like, I'm shocked you kept it.
Yeah, well, it was touch and go. So we got to the hospital. I remember we pulled up into the Emerge drive-through spot, and a nurse came out with a wheelchair after she had ran in, and she opened the door and she looked at me and went, "Oh no!" And she ran back in and came out with a gurney and 6 people.
Gurney, yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, I look that bad, do I?" Right?
Yeah.
And I remember on the drive-in, I had cut my snowmobile suit off with a knife, and I had jeans on underneath. And my leg was swelling so much that the seams on my jeans were starting to tear.
Oh
That's how much pressure my leg. So the jeans were actually holding it together. And
I was going to say, it sounds like your jeans were saving your leg.
they saved my leg. Bottom line is they saved my leg because I had compartment syndrome, and I now have 2 football-sized scars where they made huge incisions to relief, right, to make the relief cuts, and I have skin grafts over top of them. So I have a pretty gnarly looking left leg, but. So it's funny. I got a little side story. So I get in this room and I'm waiting to go into surgery, and they had me all drugged up. And a little old lady comes in, a little old lady nurse comes in, and she's like, "I'm going to put your catheter in." And I was 26 years old. I'd never been in the hospital before. I didn't know what a catheter was. So I was like, "Yeah, okay." Right. So she pulls back my gown and she grabs me and she goes to put a catheter in, and I 2-hand push her and she falls onto the floor.
Just instinctively, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, what are you doing, right? And she gets up and she smiles at me and kind of dusts herself off and walks out.
Like you've been there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, "You're freaking right, you're not doing that," you know? And but the joke's on me because 2 minutes later she walks in with 4 porters and they pin me down and she's going she puts in the catheter and I'm screaming. It's just she got the last laugh, right? And then so I went into surgery, woke up the next morning. And when I woke up, I looked down, my leg's in a huge cast, and the doctor's like, "Listen, you broke your tibia, your fibula, you broke your kneecap off, you shattered 6 inches of your femur, and we've got a titanium rod for your femur now. You've got a titanium kneecap. You've got 33 pins and screws holding the left side together." And I was like, "Okay." And I was like, "But I got this cast on. I had a huge cast on my arm." And I go, "There's nothing wrong with my arm. I used it. I was pulling myself, dragging myself, crawling." And he goes, "Oh, no, there was something wrong." He goes, "Your ulna was compound fracture sticking out through your skin."
Oh, my God. You didn't even notice.
I had no idea, right? I was so focused on my leg and I was in so much pain that I had no idea I even broke my arm the whole time. And so I have a titanium 8-inch plate on my forearm as well with 8 big screws holding it together.
Dang, Mike. So wait a minute. Your kneecap, you don't have, because since you've lost your other leg since then, you don't have a kneecap. You have a titanium, that one leg has a titanium kneecap?
So it's partially titanium and partially put back together with.
Okay. So they kind of,
left.
but still.
Yeah, it's weird.
Now, how does it affect you now?
You know what? This, unbelievably, they put it back together so well that I still, like, I use obviously my left leg all the time now. I have to. Yeah. I don't have a right leg, and it still works perfectly. It's crazy. Whoever, I know the surgeons that put it back together, but they just put it back together perfectly, and it still works to this day. They told me one day I might need a knee, but it's still working pretty good right now, and I have no problems with it. I used to have a little bit of knee pain when I first lost my leg because of all the extra work, but the muscle my muscles have gotten so big on the left side that they're helping out the knee now, and everything's good. There was no tears was the other thing. I didn't tear any of the tendons.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Now, does the weather affect, like when there's atmosphere? Like I noticed, like my jaw is titanium, and when the weather changes, I can feel it when that pressure rises. Do you feel it in your leg? Like
No,
arthritis?
we both feel that for sure. Yes.
Okay, so it's not just me. Okay, good.
No,
Because for a minute you were starting to sound invincible. I'm like, dang, this guy.
yeah, I mean, I don't feel anything. Yeah. No, I
Man.
feel it.
Now, before let me check these. What kind of questions we got?
No questions yet, but you've had people.
Charles, titanium jaw. Yeah, for Charles. Yeah, when I got injured, my jaw was shattered. So this is all titanium through here.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my right leg was injured severely. I had no feeling in it. I had a gunshot wound in it. I had my upper thigh, a piece of shrapnel went all the way through it, and they ended up saving it. But I was very fortunate that none of the bones were broken. Like you had your femur broken. You know, they say that's one of the most painful things a human can go through.
Yeah, they
You're like, yeah, I know.
they said that. Yeah, until you get your leg ripped off, I think that was worse.
Okay, well, you know from experience, yeah.
Yeah.
So
But,
okay, so you go through you go through the surgery, but then of course life happens and took a dark turn.
Yeah, so I recovered pretty quickly. I was back to light duty, working a desk job after like 2 months after that accident in a wheelchair. I went back to full duties as a firefighter after 8 months after that first accident, after a 2007 accident. And you would have never known it was an accident, like unless you saw my scars. So one of the things in rehab is they said we don't want you to ever limp. Limping is all in your head. It's your brain, compensating for something that's ouch, right? And that's why we limp. So I remember them telling me, don't ever limp. Concentrate on not limping. And I didn't. I've never limped. With all those injuries on my left leg, right? I've never limped once because I concentrated on it. And I'm like, you're damn right. That's crazy. I didn't know that. But you don't actually have to limp. It's just a compensation, right? So
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool thing to learn. And like I said, never limped. But back to work pretty quickly. But part of that was when I got out of the hospital, I was given painkillers. And this was before the epidemic of painkillers, right? This was when the doctors were like, yeah, what do you need? Here you go.
Here it is.
And I was literally given whatever I wanted for 2 years. And till the point where the doctors were starting to be like clamped down on it a little bit. And I remember my doctor just said, it's been 2 years since your accident. You don't need those anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. And I went home and found out a day later that you just can't stop. And I got so sick. And so this is part of the story where I used to get very embarrassed about talking about it because there was such a stigma around it all, but I had to go to a methadone clinic and get off painkillers. I had no choice. I didn't want to lose my job. I didn't want to talk about it with anybody. I drove to another town outside my town, so I didn't see anybody I knew.
Yeah.
I was so embarrassed about it. It was not only just like, hard on you mentally and physically, but like emotionally, you're just like, I'm a piece of shit. How did I get to this point where I'm addicted to drugs? I had never touched a painkiller at this point in my life until that accident. Right. And then, so, being on those and stuff was a mess, but I did get off them. But then 2011, we talked about briefly, but the suicide of my girlfriend, which I don't know if we're not going to get into that maybe either, but
we talked about it in the other podcast. Yeah.
Right. So I relapsed after that, even heavier into it. And there was also some other substance abuse as well.
That was an emotional response.
And I didn't know how to deal with it. And I thought, okay, I know these painkillers make you feel nothing. So I'm going to feel nothing. I don't want to deal with it. Right. And so that's what got me back onto that. And then I got arrested because I was buying them illegally and I got caught. And it was just a whole nother rock bottom to my ego, to, thought I was going to lose my job and all that. Luckily, my support system, as always, my family and my friends that always stuck by me, believed in me and stuck by me and just said, listen, just another hurdle. You'll get through it. And, your story's only, the talk of the town until the next story comes out in 2 weeks, and then you'll be forgotten about. Then you can just move on. And they were right. Then the next person screwed up, right? And I was and that's literally what happens in life, right? And then and they forget about you, and then you go and you just put the work in, and you just get better and never look back. And that's kind of what I did.
Yeah, that's so true. We we live like, I don't know how to even say this. Like we always, I don't care who you are, we all live in this world that we think everyone's watching us. Everyone's paying attention. They see everything and they're not going to forget. Because, like, I can remember embarrassing moments from elementary school. But do you think any of those kids remember what I did in fourth grade? No, but they remember what they did, or what the next story was. We do. We get wrapped up and we think this is it. This is all people know. And then they forget and then you move on. That's how people reinvent themselves 100 times over.
Absolutely. And know what you like now, me going through what I went through, not only is it like people don't look down on it, but they want to hear about it because it's helping them get through what they're going through. Are you kidding
Yes.
me? Back then, would I have thought that? Right? Not a chance.
Oh, yes, I know. I'm glad you said that. That's what we were talking about that before we went live, is sharing these stories makes such a huge impact. They have to be shared. I always tell people, if you're willing to share your story, do it because it's going to connect with somebody. Let's see what we got. Oh, that's a good one. Alex said, what should family or friends do to help a loved one get help? You know what? That's it. That is still a thing. Addiction, whether it's painkillers, whatever it is. What was the biggest, what was it your family really did to help you get to that point where you're like, I'm going to get better?
First of all, they just never gave up on me, right? They after all the stuff I've been through, they've always been there. And at some point I expected them to be like, okay, you know what? We're not doing this again, you're just an accident waiting to happen and you're right, all this stuff. That's how I felt. But they've always been there. It's unwavering support. But I also had them come and do like an intervention and be like, listen, we know the shit you've been through. We know that you're hurting. We know that you need help. Let's do it. Let's get you help. We don't we're not just pretending it's not happening or think you're a bad person because of it. Let's just figure out what you need and let's do it. So just never give up on them. Right. And if they need an intervention, do it. Right. Go sit down and tell them that you love them and you'll do whatever it takes to help them out because they need to hear that. Right. Because I felt like a piece of shit, right? I felt like a piece of shit. And I was embarrassed. I didn't even want them to know what I was going through.
Yeah. And when people end up addicted to something like that, it's because they're just trying to cope. Well, there was something I had heard one day that drugs aren't the problem, they're the solution. If you want to fix it, you find the problem. The problem lies within the person and what's going on.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for that, but someone else said it.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, that is, and I love that I understand the feeling of before feeling like you didn't, that's a hard thing to share. You don't want people to know, but I love that you're sharing it now because it's such an easy thing. Like we end up, especially when it comes to medication that you get addicted to, like you don't intend to get addicted to something. No. You're just doing what's prescribed to you and then it's got that hold on you and it's hard to let that go.
Absolutely. And then, you know what, then I went my second accident in 2016, I had to be on some painkillers, right? I had no choice, right? I was so broken. I broke my neck in 2 spots, my back in 3 spots, my leg was ripped off. Like you have to be on something, but I made it very aware to the doctors. I'm like, I've had a problem here before. I don't want to be in this problem again. Right. So not long after that, when I met my wife, after all this stuff, met my wife, she gave me the ultimatum. She's like, you can never use painkillers or drugs again. And I remember it perfectly. And I was like, done. And I still haven't to this day. And just recently, about a year and a half ago, I gave up alcohol completely. And I don't regret that one bit. Like I feel great. I'm still fun at parties. I don't need it. That's just me. I don't push that on anybody, but I do say if you want to try it, you should because it's a game changer. There's just so many people hurting these days. So I started. I'm gonna dive right into this. I started some Zoom talks. One's called Locker Talk, and it's for guys that are going through anything, drug addiction. They're in recovery. They're going through some marital problems, whatever it is in life. It's a men's talk. It's a Zoom chat, 6:00 on Friday evenings. And I did it on Friday evenings because a lot of the guys are sober, so it just keeps them from doing anything on this Friday night, right?
Great call. I love it.
Then the second one I started is Ladies Locker, and it's for women. And I don't actually run that. I started it and I handed it off to Ainsley Ronsky. It's a lady who stepped up and said, "I want to run this. This is what I want to do. I can help people," and she's taken it over and she's running with it. But it does have the name Ladies Locker, which is like a ladies' locker room, but it has my name. Okay, just so you know. But I don't have anything to do with it because it's a women's only talk. And then the third one that I just started, and we've only had a couple episodes. We haven't found our time slot quite yet, but it's Locker Talk Amputee, and so it's for amputees because I was having amputees come that weren't quite fitting in the other talk, and they wanted their own spot to talk about amputee stuff because we have our own stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I've started 3 Zoom talks, and it's for people that just want connection and want help, and it's so needed. It's crazy how much is needed.
Well, how do we find it? Okay, so you got the 3 ones. How do people get part of the Zoom call? What do they need to do? How do they become part of it?
I post the links on my Facebook, or you can go to www.limlossfitness, which is my fitness website, and click the Locker Talk link, and then it's got the different. You click the links, and it'll take you right there.
That is genius. I love that. I think that is so needed because, we as humans, we need community, and that's where we thrive. That's how we've survived as long as we have. And so you doing that is absolutely incredible.
A lot of the time, amputees just need to talk to another amputee to get the ball rolling. That's all it is. I've went to the hospital so many times and seen an amputee laying there depressed, not wanting to get out of bed. And by the time I leave half an hour later after tell them a little bit about what I do, they're on the edge of the bed saying, "I'm going to do this tomorrow, this tomorrow." It's the best feeling, right? Because it's like all they needed to do was hear it once and they're gone off to the races, right?
And know that it's possible.
Yep. All it is.
One of the things that helped me, my father, when he was a teenager, like 18 or so, a machine malfunctioned and squished his hand. And they tried to save it. They couldn't. They amputated it at the wrist. Then gangrene moved up. They amputated it right in the middle of his forearm. So I grew up with a father with one hand. And so when I got injured, it was suddenly this man that, I was your typical teenager or your kid in his early 20s. My dad didn't know what he was talking about, but suddenly his word was gospel. Like I wanted to know everything. And when I was at Walter Reed, other veterans that had been injured, they wanted to meet my dad. They had questions for him because he's lived it. Doesn't mean that he has all the answers, but he has that experience. And that's what we're passing on in each amputee. As time goes on, they're going to share with the next one. And that's important. We need that.
That's crazy. Wow. I didn't know that either about you. So there you go. I had the same thing happen. There's a police officer, full duty police officer here in Kingston. He's a below knee amputee, motorcycle. He came into the hospital when I was 4 weeks in or something, in uniform. And he came in, he goes, "How you doing?" He goes, "Okay." He goes, "You won't be too long from now." He goes, "You'll just, instead of putting on 2 shoes in the morning, you're putting a shoe in the leg." He goes, "That's the only difference." And he's like a man's man, right? I'm like, "Yes, sir." Like,
Yes,
okay,
sir.
it's that easy. And he's like, "It's just that easy. Don't don't complain. Just do." And I'm like, "All right." His name's Jesse Braun. And I remember him visiting me in the hospital because that was the moment I was like, okay, now I have to. Like, this guy's a killer, right? This guy's like jacked, good looking guy, right? He's a cop and he's still doing his full duties. And it's no big deal. I just put a shoe and a leg on. It's not a big deal. I'm like,
Do you still talk to him? Do you still have contact?
I haven't
with him?
talked to him in a little while, but we're friends. Yeah. I haven't. He's got a busy life. He's got 2 young boys. He's married. He's living his best life. Like, yeah. We'll
have to reach out and see if we can get him to come on. That would be really cool.
You should. Yeah.
It's funny.
I'll hook it up.
The comment you said about, now your mornings you just put 1 shoe and a leg on. There was one time I heard a joke that men will put on the same pair of pants as long as there's a belt in it. If there's a belt in the pants, we'll put them on. And I take it a step further because, like, if I'm wearing jeans and I take them off and I take the leg off, I leave the leg in the jeans. So I'll keep wearing the same jeans. As long as there's a leg in it, I'm going to keep wearing those pants.
I did that this morning, bro. That's funny. Oh, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah, Charles said the belt comes out, it's in the washer. That's the only time. Yeah.
That's good.
So, all right. So I saw on social media you're at the farm doing a lot of work. Tell me what do you have at the farm? I know you told me before. Was there animals? What's your farm? What do you have? I know it's not a huge farm, but it's a workable farm.
So we're surrounded by a massive farm. Our neighbor owns a huge ranch. We have chickens, and we don't actually have any other animals ourselves. It's all the farm that our neighbor has, but we have the run of the roost of his whole farm, right? So then we got baby goats, cows. We get, like, I literally do tours of the farm like it's mine, right? And they're just salt of the earth people. The farmer that runs, so there's a farm hand that runs the entire farm, Larry.
Yeah.
Him and I are best buddies, right? So we talk all the time. You know, I can use any of the equipment I want. So it's not actually, I grew up on a farm with cows, horses, chickens, pigs, sheep, everything. But this farm isn't actually ours. We live right on the farm. We have a 1876 limestone farmhouse, and the neighbor that owns the farm has the same twin house. And then obviously there's been additions built on them, but
18. Did you say 1876?
Yeah. So Kingston is known as the Limestone City, and all the houses back then were built out of limestone. Well, limestone lasts forever. It's right. It's from the ground. It's.
I mean, I'm learning it today. I didn't know.
Okay, our walls in our original part of the house are 3 foot thick. Limestone.
Oh, God. Oh.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, the Limestone City, Kingston, Ontario.
That's good. You know, where we're sitting right now, Alabaster, Calera, it's a bunch of limestone. Like, we have quarries it's in the ground. Like, me and my wife, we plant a lot of trees, and you have to account for the amount of limestone that is in our. So what is that? Limb loss?
Limb Loss Fitness. That's the emblem. Sorry, just plugging myself. That's all.
Yeah, no, I love it. And wait a minute, what's the logo?
Oh, you'll love that.
Yeah, turn it a little bit, a little more. There you go.
It's
a
a fire axe
leg and your axe.
Yeah, it's an X3 and a fire axe. Yeah.
Now, can we go online and order that?
No, but I'm gonna start doing swag soon.
Yeah,
You'll be able to get it right on my website. Yeah.
Dude, that shirt, you come out with that shirt, I'm ordering the first one.
Done. I'll be sending you one. You don't worry about that.
No, that's how you support buddies. I'm going to buy one.
Love it. Okay.
Because I'm going to sell you mine. Hold on. Charles asked a question. What's the best advice you have ever received for life, either pre or post incidents?
Wow, that's kind of a tough one. Best advice. Okay, well, post all my incidents. It's like, and it's my motto now, is just never give up. It's the simplest thing, but just never ever say the words "I give up." Don't do it. Never think it. Right? Always win. Right? I want to win. I don't want to lose. I never give up. Right? And that's my motto now, is like, when I sign a book or whatever, it's just never give up, because that covers pretty much anything in life, right?
Yeah.
People go through marital problems, like financial troubles, right? Like all these things that can happen. And if you give up, right, you're giving into, that's beating you. That whatever that's, going on in your life is beating you. And I just can't accept that. It's never going to happen. So never give up.
And the first thing that crossed my mind when you said that, you're like, never give up. I like winning. If you never give up, you will never lose. You may not be the winner, but you will never lose. I think that is great advice. I remember one time I went and did Kilimanjaro, and I was just altitude started affecting me the last couple of days, and then the final night you stay at base camp for a day or so, and then in the middle of the night you go because you reach the peak at sunrise.
Oh.
And in Swahili they say pole pole. That means slowly, slowly. Man, I wasn't about that. I was moving too quick and just kept, and they had two guides that followed me. And then at one point I stopped, I threw up and I was like, okay, now I'm good. And then I black out. Like they said, I was not far from the peak and I woke up to them dragging me down. And then once I got I was like, hold on. And I kind of got my senses. I was like, okay, I'm ready to go. They're like, no, it's too late. Like once you've hit that point, you can't even stay at the altitude you're at. You have to come down. And when I got back to base camp, I had this, I was so hard on myself in the tent, just licking my wounds and just upset. But a couple days later, I was like, you know what? I went until I blacked out. That mountain had to knock me out before I stopped. And I took that as, you know what? I did good. I learned some lessons.
You didn't give up, though. You didn't give
I
up.
challenged myself all the way to the end. And that's something I'm proud of. I haven't reached that peak yet, but I did something beyond the point that most people will do. Most people, your brain will tell you to stop long before your body needs to, because the brain's trying to protect you and it thinks you're an idiot. But the body can go a lot further.
Right there.
Yes.
Untapped
Because
60,
that's the name
right?
of your book. Yep. Yeah, that's the name of your book.
You tapped into the untapped 60, the untapped
Yes.
60% right there, right? When your brain said stop, every step you took after that was tapping into that 60%.
Yeah. Yeah. Robbie said, y'all are making me feel lazy.
Don't feel that way.
Okay. Bob had a good question for both of you. What's something big y'all would want to do next in your life? What's something you'd like to do?
What do I want to do next? I mean, I haven't really thought about anything big, I don't think, but I want to start helping people on a bigger level.
Yeah.
And which means getting in front of more people, telling my story and helping more people get through their struggles in life. And so, big would be like speaking in front of 10,000 people, say. I don't know how big can I speak in front of, right?
Yeah.
Right. So bring it on, whatever I can.
And that's going to happen before you know it. That's how it happened for me. Like it went from small groups to all of a sudden something comes up and you're like, boom, you're in this auditorium and it's this big crowd and I love it. I feed off the crowd. I always tell people, I always wanted to be a rock star, but I don't play any instruments and I can't sing. So this is the closest I can get to being a rock star, is to be on stage in front of a lot of people. And you'll be there. I mean, you've got this story, this demeanor about you that it's going to happen before you know it.
And I do love speaking in front of people. And I've gotten fairly good at it. I'm just very raw and authentic, and people like that. So yeah, I mean, that's what's next for me is getting in front of more people and helping more people.
Yeah. And I'm going to answer, Bob said it was for both of us, and I'm going to be kind of corny about it, but what I want to do next in my life is actually what I've started doing right now. And that's this podcast. When I first started doing it, me and my brother-in-law started doing it. And then I kind of fell off of it and was like, nah, man, we're not going to do it anymore. And then Chuck was like, well, let's do a couple of episodes and talk to some people and just share their stories. And we started doing it. And now I'm like, I love this so much. I'm really hoping, and I'm saying that to shamelessly plug it. If you're watching this, share it, support it, subscribe, because this is what I want to do next in my life, is be someone I've had this amazing opportunity to be in front of a lot of people. And now I want to share other people's stories like yours, Mike. I want to just be another platform as you go out through your life, that this is just another group of people that's hearing your amazing story. And that's what my goal is. So thanks for asking that, Bob.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like I said, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I was reading more questions. Robbie has responded and said they're probably going to climb Everest with no gear, their machines. Would you ever want to climb Everest?
If you invite me, I'll do it with you.
Yeah, we may have to look into that.
Okay.
Of course, I got to figure out how to deal with altitude.
Well,
Maybe I should go
I've never done
slowly.
it. I've never done it, so I don't know. I can put on I put on a breathing apparatus and go into a fire. I don't know if that helps, but
I think if I ever did Everest, I don't really care if I do it unassisted. I know there's people who do it without oxygen.
oh, I would.
I would be very okay. I don't think anybody would judge us if we said, "Hey, I was on Everest, but were you using oxygen?"
Yeah,
Yes.
but were you using two legs or two arms?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I see Keith said, don't stop doing live streams. I love doing these live streams. I hope that we get more of our guests that come on to do these live streams because it's so fun.
No, it's fun.
It's
This is fun,
enjoyable
yeah.
to do
It's the
this.
first one I've done, and I love it.
Brandon asked earlier a question about altitude change for ghost titanium.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's see. Chuck said there's a question. If you get in a plane or drive up a mountain, do you feel it? Brandon Ward.
Titanium implants.
Oh, with the titanium. Well, a plane is pressurized. So I don't think you really. I don't know have you ever felt anything? Have you ever been at altitude and felt like you're titanium or anything?
No, I've never felt any
Yeah, I don't
weird
think so.
sensations or anything. No.
I've only time I feel it's like when people have arthritis, like when that pressure, like I know when a storm's coming.
Yeah.
My jaw just tenses up, and I'm sure your leg just aches.
It does, yeah. Right. Honestly, right where my femur and knee area, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a step back. You mentioned a year and a half ago, you quit drinking.
Yeah.
It's funny when you said I'm not telling people not to or not. 3 years ago, I quit, and there was a lot going on in my life. My father struggling with it, and so I decided to take a break. And after 6 months, I was like, you know what? I'm good. And I think the biggest impact that I had was, and I love starting the story this way. I was in Tennessee at auctioneer school. And people were like, "What?" And so I went through auctioneer school, and one night a group of us went out to a karaoke bar, and I drank club soda with lime the entire time. Now, before this night, I was convinced in my head you could not go out and have a good time if you weren't drinking. And I had the best time that when we left, I called my wife and said, "Babe, we're leaving a karaoke bar with the guys, and I was drinking club soda with lime all night, and I had the best time." That was the game changer for me, realizing that I could go have a good time and not drink. And what I love the most is I never have to worry about how I'm getting home. I never have to worry about what I said or did, and I always feel good the next morning.
Bam, right? And me too. With my profession, a lot of guys drink after shift, or like it's just part of the culture, right? Is drinking and,
Yeah.
and probably drowning around their sorrows and everything else. So I thought it was going to be really hard to do, and I was the same thing. The first time I did it on a firefighter pub crawl, and I was like, I'm not going to drink, and it's probably going to be terrible. I'm probably going to go home early, and I did it, and I had honestly had the best time. I remember everything. I drove home, drove all my buddies home, right?
Yeah.
Got up the next morning, went to the gym, felt great. And I was like, I remember I did the same thing to my wife. I was like, I don't ever have to drink again. Doesn't bother me one bit to not drink. And I don't even enjoy it. And I never had a drinking problem. I had the drug problem, but I never had a drinking problem. But I just didn't enjoy it. Like I was like, why am I doing this? Not to mention, Noah, it's so much easier to stay in shape. Like I don't have to
Oh my God.
work half as hard.
Yes. You know what? Not only that, my diet, I don't have to be as strict on my diet.
Yes.
It is the amount of empty calories that are in alcohol. And I'll tell you what, talking about a drinking problem, I always tell people, I'm not going to say I had a drinking problem back in the day, but I will say I don't now.
Yeah, good one. But and it's a big thing now. It's a big movement, and to the point where there's a bar. Actually, it's right near the island I actually hit. It's a country bar off the edge of Lobra Lake where I hit that island, and they're having a alcohol-free event next month. And he posted, the owner of the bar posted it and said, I'm going to have this alcohol-free event because he recently gave up alcohol. And he has his own reasons. And he phoned me and he's like, do you think it's a good idea? And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like, it's a country area. Everyone drinks, right?
Yeah.
Well, it blew up on social media to the point where it got 40,000 views and like 10,000 comments. And like, it's crazy. It blew right up. And he's like, I can't believe it. He goes, this might be like a regular thing we're going to do. And he's like, we're going to sell out. I'm like, are you kidding me? And he's like, we're taking all the alcohol out of the bar. So like anybody that's got a problem, they can still show up. And there's none there. There's no temptation. There's nothing because it's not there. We're getting it right out of the bar. Anyways, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, there is a big movement now. Like that's how far it's come.
Yeah, no, there is, and they say that the younger generation that is at the age to drink, alcohol's not what it used to be. And again, this is no judgment. Like I see, someone had said, I feel bad as I sit here sipping my whiskey. Of course, they're laughing. This is no judgment. But yeah, it's something that I know I personally am really happy with the decision I made to stop. Now, also, Alex said, what do y'all do to relax? That's a good question. What do you feel like has taken up that time? Because my first gut reaction is we think alcohol relaxes us because it doesn't.
No.
It messes with your sleep. It doesn't really, it convinces us. But what would you say you do to relax now that you don't get home and just have a beer or whiskey?
Honestly, I don't know if I do relax ever, but I mean, I got a 5-year-old boy, right? But he's busy all the time. But to relax, honestly, just relaxing for me is going to the gym and doing things that make me healthy, right? And going for a walk or a run, say on your blade or whatever it may be. That's more relaxing for me than actually like drinking ever was. Really, I never actually got that feeling from that, to be honest.
Yeah,
I was more the party guy, right? Like I was fun, right?
You know what? That's what I was about to say. I'm one extreme or the other. Everything I do, if I do it, I'm out. Like you'll see me in the morning. You know what I mean? Like it was. I didn't balance it well. There are people who balance it well. I'm not that person. I'm better to be a non-drinker. Yeah. Now, I before I go to there's a couple of good questions. This Sunday met up with some guys, and it was at a brewery, and I was drinking. I had 2 non-alcoholic Coronas.
Oh yeah.
And apparently there's Guinness has one, Stella has one. Like there's all these non-alcoholic. Of course, I had someone tell me that it can leave you, like if you drink too much of it, the headache is even worse the next day because
so I've only ever had 2 at the most, but I do find Corona does make the best at this point.
We throw that lime in there and it's incredible.
Yeah, and so the most I've ever had was 2 of those. But they're pretty good. Just to be social, you can have one of those and they're coming out with so many mocktails now. The whiskeys and stuff that are not alcoholic. Yeah. And restaurants, I haven't been to a restaurant in about a year that doesn't carry mocktails. Like everyone has them now because they know how popular it is now to not drink.
Yeah. Charles said, how hard was it to get motivated in the gym after losing a limb? That's a good question. What was it for you?
For me, it was very easy because both times I had to get back to my job, right?
Oh, so
I identified as a firefighter. My only thing in life I want to do is being a firefighter. And I know being a firefighter, you have to be in shape. So it was easy. I was like, when can I get back? When the physiotherapist would come in and be like, you got to do 5 push-ups today and take 10 steps. I'd be like, yeah. And when she'd leave, I'd be like, do 500 push-ups and 60 laps around the building, right? It's like I pushed every limit. I was like, so as soon as I could go back to the gym, it was every day until I got back to work.
It took me a while. Fitness was, and I always did physical labor. And so being in shape was good. And I got into fitness at a young age. That was the worst shape I'd ever been in was after my injury. I think I went about 5 years almost of just, I drank more than I ever did before. You know what I mean? I was self-medicating. I just wasn't taking care of myself. And it was when I realized I didn't want to look the way I looked anymore. Not that I had to be, a model, but I just didn't feel like I was doing myself justice. And so it took me a while. It took me a couple of times of joining the gym and stopping, joining the gym, stopping. One time, me and my sister, we did P90X together. You know what I mean? And so it took a few times before it stuck. And then once it did, I was like, okay, I can do this. And I always tell people it's all about those. We had a guy on the other day, those small wins, the little things. Don't try to make up everything in a day.
Right.
A buddy of mine, Brian, just said he's the one that introduced me. I was with him one day. Heineken 0.0 is a good one.
Yeah, I've had that too.
He drinks it. Yeah. And he's another guy that great shape, looks good, cut out alcohol, and it's so much easier to not put on that extra weight.
I haven't had abs like I do now since I stopped drinking since I was 20, honestly. Right. I was always in good shape, but never I always had like a little, but now it's like too easy. It's like, and everyone asks, well, how do you get in good shape? I'm like, well, I quit drinking first and I work out, fairly regularly and eat healthy, but drinking was like the game changer.
I know. Chuck's going to get home and Alex is going to toss out all the alcohol. She's like, I heard you could get abs. He's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Not drinking made a huge difference for me. And again, it's just a personal thing. And I have found it to be really, I'll tell you what I noticed when I quit drinking. I didn't know I quit drinking sodas when I was like 18. And so I just never was a big soda drinker.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the club soda with lime. That told me, I didn't realize how much I like the carbonation, just like drinking a beer. Just that carbonation. Like I love sparkling water now, which is ridiculous because before I quit drinking, I was that guy that was like sparkling water. What? No, come on, just give me some water. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Now I'm that guy at the table. They're like, do you want sparkling or still? Sparkling, please, sparkling.
You're very, very sophisticated.
Yes, very sophisticated. Yeah, no one's ever said that. All right, so now we mentioned. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
I was going to last thing about drinking is just like,
Yeah.
The other thing that just made sense to me is like, it's poison. Our bodies were never meant to have alcohol in them. It's literally poisoning your body. Why do you think people throw up when you've had too much? Because your body needs to get it out and get it out now because it's not supposed to be in there. So it's like, but, when I thought about that, I'm like, you're just literally poisoning yourself. Why would I want to do that to myself? It's like taking drugs. You're poisoning yourself. So, now it's easy to say that because I drank and I did drugs, but right. But it makes sense now. Don't poison myself, right?
Yeah.
I'll be in shape and be healthy. Wow, right? It's not rocket science.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap this up, you remember we did the card game.
Oh yeah.
You asked questions. I want to do it again. Is that okay with you?
It was
all
tough.
right. So for those that are watching, if they've never seen it, we've got these deck of cards that have 3 different levels. Level 1's icebreakers, level 2 confessions, level 2 getting deeper into that conversation. And they're very random. And we're going to go through them and we're both going to answer them. Plug the name. Oh, he got a good one. Chuck's like, hey, don't be afraid to tell people what it is. It's how deep will you go are the cards. And it comes with a whole stack of these 3 different levels. And I love pointing out, I'm glad Chuck said that because I say this every time, but Chuck and I, when I first bought them, sat in here alone and just were going through them. And you'll get really close to somebody because some of these really get you talking and opening up. All right, so enough of that. First one, if you could compliment yourself, what would you say? Like, don't be afraid of any, what would you say if you were outside talking to Mike, you're someone else, what compliment would you give Mike? What would you say to Mike?
I'd say you're very resilient. Right. You're always You've always gotten back up no matter what and kept going.
For me, I think I would say, I'm trying to think of how to word it. I'm really happy with the work I'm putting in to be better. You know what I mean? I always tell people I have a long way to go, but I'm putting in that work. Every day is just trying to be better every day. And that's something I'm proud of. And I think that's a compliment I would give myself is I just keep trying. I still mess up, still fall down, but I get back up and try to learn from it. That was a good one. All right. Oh, I love this one. I came across this one the other day, and I love this came back up. If they made a movie about you, Mike, who would play you?
Ha! This is hilarious because they just did a documentary that came out in the film festival.
Yeah.
But Jarrett, my partner, and I, my speaking partner, we talked about this before. If you did a movie, like who would play you? I'm like, Tom Hardy would definitely.
Oh man, yes.
Right? Or second place would be Sam Worthington. Do you know who that is? He played one of the Terminator movies. He's in
Okay.
where they are those blue people. What's that called?
The Blue Man Group?
No. There's that movie. The movie where they're avatars. Avatar. He's in that.
Bane. Oh, wait a minute. Bane is played. I'm sorry. When I looked up at the chat, someone said Bane. Then someone
Which
said
is Tom
Avatar.
Hardy.
Bane is Tom Hardy. Yes.
Yeah.
He would be great.
Oh yeah, they're making a great day. That's Jarrett right there. Avatar. He just put, but that's Sam.
Oh, okay. He's on it. Okay. Yeah, that would be. Oh my God, he would be perfect for you.
Yeah, I think so too. And Tom Hardy, I love his work. He's so good. And he's a jiu-jitsu. He does jiu-jitsu, and I do jiu-jitsu now. And so, yeah, he's like a little role model for me lately, watching him do jiu-jitsu tournaments and stuff.
Tom Hardy, he's the same person that I think. So there was a movie, one of my favorite movies. It's one of those few movies I've watched more than once. What is that? It's where it's based on a real life, the England's most expensive inmate, notorious inmate. What is it? Bronson. Is that Tom Harding? Harding?
Is he
Harding.
in that?
Yeah, he's in it. He's Bronson. That's before I really knew who he was. I was like, it's just a cool movie. I mean, if you haven't seen Bronson, that is a really good movie.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I think that's a really good one. I always, when it came up before a possibility of, because there's a script out there floating around that could be a movie about me. I was always asked, well, who do you want to play you? And Mark Wahlberg I always thought was a good one, but he's played so many veterans.
Right.
So it's like, and I always thought Chris Pratt would be cool just because of his demeanor.
Actually, you actually do. You guys look similar too. He could do that look for sure. Yeah.
I think, and I always thought it'd be a cool movie because just like for you, if someone played you in a movie, what they can do with CGI would be, amazing. And that's like, I always thought that if they ever made a movie about me, if the actor is good enough, there is a part when you mentioned trying to come off of those painkillers, when I was coming off all my, what is it they inject you with that's really strong?
Fentanyl?
Morphine. Yeah, because you need methadol to come off of it. I quit it cold turkey. Of course, I wasn't on it for 2 years, but I remember sitting in my room. I was sharing a room with my dad. He's in the other bed, snoring away, and I'm at the foot of my bed. I'm seeing tracers. I'm shaking. I'm shivering. I'm crying. And I've always said, look, if somebody can't win an Oscar off that, well, then that actor just ain't good enough. Because I feel like that's the scene. So just sitting there in your underwear, missing 2 limbs, having this mental breakdown of withdrawals that was just so intense. And I'll tell you what, I got real sick and saw 4 different doctors, and I was traveling in 2 different states, and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, and I was in pain. And one of the doctors one time gave me morphine. And I've always said, I've never done heroin. I don't plan to, but I've known people that have been, that thing has grabbed them And when that morphine went into my body, I was like, oh, I remember this. Like it'd been years, but it's like when you feel that, it takes you back. And I get where that if it's in your presence, it's a hard thing to buck
Oh yeah.
because those things will grab you and it can
Luckily
take
now,
over.
luckily now I've gotten to the point where I have too much to lose. Like my my wife, my kids,
Kids.
right? I just know that there's way too much to lose. So I don't think it doesn't bother me at all anymore. I know people that have them. I don't even think about it.
Don't
but
have to. Yeah.
But they're like, there was definitely many years where I couldn't go near people.
Go near it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Last one.
Usually
You
the
ready?
hardest one. Here we go.
Yep. This is it. All right. You have so many of these. Describe your lowest moment in your life. How did it help you grow?
The lowest moment was after Jen died. And then I got arrested. I was addicted to drugs, got arrested. It just all piled on. It's like when they say rock bottom has a trap door, I kept hitting the trap door. And how did it help me grow? Well, I got a second chance. And when I got that second chance by not losing my job, the judge threw all the charges away when I got arrested and said, I see what's happened. Here's your second chance, right? Don't make me a fool of me. How do you not grow, right? It's like, yes, sir. And then I had to put the work in though, right?
Yeah.
I had to get sober, stay sober, deal with the loss of Jen, deal with PTSD, deal with depression, all of it all at once. So I grew in so many areas so quickly that, it was invaluable, right? It's like, it was the worst rock bottom in the world. It wasn't just one rock bottom. There was a whole bunch of rock bottoms, right? So, and I'm still, I still think about those things. You're always growing from all the things you've been through, right? And so are you, right? You remember everything that's happened to you, and you're always, sharing that story. It brings up old memories, and then, rehashing that stuff, and then you're growing again, and you're right. And you're healing again.
Look, my answer to this question is my lowest moment was actually in the last few years dealing with my mental health. And I always tell people, if you really dive into mental health, it's going to be painful before it gets better. The example I love to use is like pouring alcohol on an open wound. You need it to clean it, but it's going to burn. And I think it was for me, I wasn't as level-headed as you were. I was in denial for a lot, my injury, all these different things. I wasn't close to my buddies I served with because I pulled away from everything and just went and started doing all these races and stuff like that. But my lowest moment was during my mental health, just looking back and realizing that the mistakes I made. But I had to remind myself that, hey, this is growth. This is me saying it's behind me and I'm going to move forward. And I can still slip and fall, but that's behind me. Yesterday's behind me. Everything is behind me. And so that for me, that was the growth of realizing, man, I need to be level-headed. I need to know what I'm doing. And like you said, when you've got something to live for, when you've got a wife, when you have kids, even if you're not married, don't have kids, there are people who look up to all of us in some way. And they're counting on us, just like we are them. And it's necessary. And I think you're amazing, Mike. I think you're absolutely incredible. I love your energy, your demeanor. You're an amazing person. So before we go, let's mention your Instagram is at Firefighter Amp.
Yeah,
Something
you
right
got
in
it.
front of me right now. Yep,
Yep,
Firefighter Amp.
Amp.
Facebook.
Facebook's Michael DN Laughlin, so it's my name. And then my website, www.limlossfitness.com and
That's where all the locker rooms are.
Yep, that's where the locker talks are. And then www.untapped60.com is where keynote and speaking events and courses, Untapped 60 courses, and my speaking partner, my business partner, Jarrett Robertson. He looks after all that stuff, and you can go there and learn a ton and get a ton from that too.
Yeah, and we in the chat, if anybody's watching, even if it's days from when we did this, in the chat we posted the link to your website, and yeah, and I'm telling you, when it comes to speaking, like you're gonna wake up one day with an offer that's gonna be a big one, and then it's just gonna keep going and going and going because you have such an amazing story.
I appreciate that because that means a lot coming from you, Noah. I know how successful you've been with your speaking, and for you to say that means a lot.
No, thank you. And your buddy, I'm sorry, what was his name again?
Jarrett.
Did you say Jeremy?
Jarrett, yeah.
Jared, I'm sorry, Jared. I love it. His name on here is Make It a Great Day. Dude, y'all are just amazing people. Thank you, Jared, for what y'all are doing together. I think that y'all two as a team working together is amazing. He doesn't know this, but you and I were talking about it before we went live. That's a good move. You got to have people that are looking out for you because it's easy for people to take advantage of a speaker or anybody that's doing anything. So having somebody in your corner is good. All right, we're going to wrap this up. Mike, again, thank you. I encourage everybody to check out your website, follow you on Instagram, everything you're doing. Keep doing those Zoom meetings. We all need that. It's important. Man.
Hey, until the next time, let's do this again.
Yeah, let's do it again. And make sure if you're watching this, look back at all of our episodes, but go find the one of Mike and I talking about when he lost his leg and the layers that just unfolded with your story. I'm glad we had you back on, Mike.
Thanks, buddy.
And I'll see you in August. I'll be in Canada and we're gonna get together.
Yeah, we are, for sure.
All right, everybody that joined us, thank you so much. Your support means so much to me and Chuck and everybody else. Make sure you subscribe, get alerts when we have new episodes. We have some already pre-recorded that are going to slowly be coming out. We're going to keep putting them out there as long as we got the support. And so, yeah, tell your family, friends, check it out because the more support we get, the more we can keep this going. So thank you for joining us on Living with No Excuses. And yeah, keep pushing yourself. And like Mike said, just don't stop. Don't quit. Don't ever give up. Keep winning. Thank you.